Welcome back, MTG Burgeoning community and YouTube viewing audience. If you are part of the latter and wish to join the former, click that subscribe button right now. Come on, you got nothing to lose and so many sweet, sweet rewards to gain. In today's video, you are in for a treat. We are taking a trip back in time and we are going to crack open an old deck, a deck that predates this century. That's right, folks, we're going back to the 20th century. Welcome back, MTG Burgeoning fans. What we have here is a 5th edition 60 card deck starter box. Now, these are not 5th edition cards as it was back in the day. This is how we would store our decks. Okay, I mean, way back. I mean, this is going back to when I first started playing Magic. So this is one of the first 2 or 3 decks I ever made. And I got into Magic when Tempest was out, so that was October of '97. So this deck has spent many, many moons just sitting, and honestly, it probably hasn't been played with in about 15 years. So I think it's pretty reasonable to assume that the contents of this deck, which I have not played with in the longest time, are going to be all cards that are Tempest or older. 1997, the date of this box. As you can tell, it has seen its share of transport and gameplay. So let's open up this box and let's take a look. Oh, look at that. You could even see. You gotta remember, folks, no one cared about sleeves back in the day. I mean, back in the early days of Magic, no one cared about sleeving. Our playgroup didn't care about sleeving. There were some players that would just shuffle their Magic decks like they were a deck of playing cards. And you can already see just how old these cards are. Look at this deck box. Look at that deck box. Oh my goodness. Look at these cards. All right, let's for the purposes of appreciation for aged on cards, let's grab that. And then let's grab a stack of some nice stored cards from this last decade, stored in nice sleeves, packed to sleeve to storage box. Here we have a deck that's easily 23 years old. Look at how old, you can just tell. Wow, look at that. This is going to be a treat, folks. So this was MTG Burgeoning's Phase Wrath deck. It was a white-blue Azorius build that focused on phasing creatures, phasing spells, and trying to play board wipes while our creatures were phased out, and then attack with the creatures when they phase back in. Now, no one's going to confuse this deck for being Legacy, Vintage Power. No. This was just a kitchen table deck way back from the 90s, and there shouldn't be a card in this deck that is older, that is more recent than Tempest cards. So let's just take a look at some of these. This is going to be a treat. Look at that. Tempest Disenchant. Okay, look at that island all beat up to hell. Like I said, no, we didn't care about sleeves. Look at Time and Tide. Visions card, an instant for 2 blue. All creatures that are phased out, phase in, and all creatures with phasing, phase out. Like I said, this was a phasing deck. And there they are, the Merfolk Raiders from Mirage. 2/3 phasing and Island Walk. And just for the historical purposes of MTG Burgeoning, the very first deck I ever constructed was a Merfolk deck. I can't remember if this Phase Wrath deck was deck number 2 or deck number 3, interchangeable with a Fiery Doom deck that I had constructed. It was a Rakdos build. No idea if that deck is still lying around anywhere, but that island. Oh, and there it is. There's the board wipe we were talking about earlier, Wrath of God. 1995. Bury all creatures. Check out the artwork. 25-year-old card, and it looks every bit of it. Every bit as old as a 25-year card. Bury all creatures, not destroy creatures. Destroy wasn't even a thing for creatures back in the day. It was bury. Bury all creatures. There's another Merfolk, the Vodalian Illusionist. This guy was in my original Merfolk deck as well. 2 and a blue, we tap 2, tap him, and target creature phases out. Boy, having him in play and having the mana to activate him caused all kinds of problems for opponents. Another disenchant. Oh, there's Shimmer. Enchantment from Mirage. Look at that, 2 and 2 blue. When it comes into play, choose a land type. All lands of the chosen type gain phasing. Opponents used to hate this card. A lot of red in the play group. So I remember way back in the day, Goblin decks and just burn decks. And when Shimmer came out, choosing mountains was a real easy decision. All lands of the chosen type gain phasing. And then look at this Crocodile. Mirage, 6/5 phasing. Look at the size of that baby. 6/5 phaser for 4 and a blue. And believe it or not, folks, back in the early days of Magic, we're going back to 97, this was a win condition. The Sandbar Croc was a win condition. Look at that planes, that artwork. Look at how old that is. Oh my goodness. Look at that original counterspell from Tempest. Yeah, we had some counter spells in here. I didn't know any better back then, folks. Don't hate on me too much, Burgeoning fans. I didn't know much back then in the very early days of Magic. Look at this Breeze Keeper, 4/4 flying for 3 and a blue. This was another win condition. Just look at the age on these cards. Visions. Another Island from Tempest. Another Wrath of God. Bury all creatures. And that artwork. Can't get over that artwork. Just awesome. Plains. There's another Shimmer. Sandbar Crocodile. Another one of those guys. An Island. There's another Time and Tide. There's those Merfolk Raiders. Love those guys. 2/3 phasing and Island Walk. Here's the Shimmering Ifrit. Another card from Visions. It was a 2/2 and it had flying and phasing. And when it phased in, target creature phases out. So I always would choose an opponent's creature if I could. But if I couldn't, this was the only creature in play, I had to choose the Shimmering Ifrit to phase back out. So there were times I remember having this in play and it phases in with no other creatures in play. I had to target it to phase it back out. So it was useless. So I don't think I have more than just a couple copies. I would hope. Oh, there it is. Teferi's Veil. Wow, I remember this card all the way back from Weatherlight. Holy mackerel. 1 and a blue enchantment. Whenever any creature you control attacks, it phases out at the end of combat. So with our deck having the huge 6/5 Croc, which I can assure you, back in the day, it was a win condition, and then a bunch of flyers that are just, fly right overhead of our opponents' armies on the battlefield. They would phase out at the end of combat. Then we would move the second main phase, cast the Wrath of God. Oh, good times. Phase Wrath. 23-year-old deck tech. Counterspell. Another Breeze Keeper. Plains. Another Wrath of God with that amazing artwork. 1995. I'm not even sure exactly which series this is from. Illustrated by Quentin Hoover. Excellent job, Quentin Hoover. Counterspell of Plains. Another Wrath of God. You can just see these cards are just in such bad shape. Plains. Another Disenchant. Oh my god, seriously? That's where this is? Look at this. I gotta put this down. Look at this. Howling Mine. Original artwork for the... Look at how old this card is. So banged up. This was the only Howling Mine I had back in the day. Now you have to remember, this was way before they started reprinting Howling Mines and like so many other supplemental sets and core sets and additions. I mean, to have a Howling Mine back in the day, it was a pretty big deal. This was the only one I had, and I remember I would shuffle this into every deck. I would take out of one deck, shuffle it into another deck. It was one of those cards that I would always made sure it was in my deck. Our play group is such a huge fan of the Howling Mine card. It has such like reverence in our play group, so much to the point that in our play group, any player that casts a Howling Mine in any of the first 3 turns is immune to all combat and all direct damage. So any player that casts, in our metagroup, this is an absolute fact, in our metagroup, any player that casts a Howling Mine within the first 3 turns is immune to anything that turn. That is how much we love the Howling Mine. Wow, look at that Howling Mine. That's where that baby went. All right, another Illusionist, an Island. There's another Shimmering Ifrit. And, oh, I do have more than a couple of those in there. What was I thinking? Boy, I'll tell you, deck building deck back then, not as refined as it is now. 4 copies of this stiff, seriously? Oh. All right, Time and Tide. We're getting towards the end here. I can't imagine there's anything else that we haven't already seen. Wow, look at that. 23-year-old Azorius Phase Wrath deck. Can you tell that it's old? I mean, my goodness. All right, folks, this is MTG Burgeoning. We took a trip back in time today with the Phase Wrath deck tech. 20th century deck tech. Is there even a card in here that's older than, or that's more recent than Tempest? I wasn't paying attention. Let's see. Mirage, Weatherlight. Looks like all the land Visions, Weatherlight. I don't even know where that's from. I'm just seeing a lot of Visions, a lot of Mirage, a lot of Weatherlight, and nothing but Tempest. And cards that predate the mana symbols. Wow. Holy macro. All right, folks. Yes, so no card in this deck is more recent than Tempest, which came out in October of 1997. So you were looking at a deck that is over or around 23 years old. Holy mackerel. Back into the amazingly versatile storage box we have here. All right, Burgeoning fans, that's going to be our video for today. You go forth and you enjoy this stroll down memory lane.